Dear colleagues, good afternoon. Let us start broadcasting our session. Let me declare open a session of the Dissertation Council for the Defense of Thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna for the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences, Specialty 080010, Finance Currency Circulation Credit, on the theme Minimizing the Insured Economic Risks Associated with the Activities of Financial Insurance Intermediaries. According to the order St. Petersburg University, dated the 23rd of April 2020, number 3504/1, me, Pisarenko Zhanna Viktorovna, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Associate Professor of the Department of Risk Management and Insurance of St. Petersburg University, was appointed Chairman of this Dissertation Council. Other members of the Dissertation Council were appointed with the same order. Let me introduce them to you. Nikitina Tatiana Viktorovna, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor of the Department of Banks, Financial Markets and Insurance of St. Petersburg State Economic University. Kuznetsova Natalia Petrovna, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor of Risk Management and Insurance of St. Petersburg University. Also, in the remote access mode we have Yanova Svetlana Yurievna, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor, Head of the Department of Banks, Financial Markets and Insurance of St. Petersburg State Economic University. Svetlana Yurievna, can you see and hear us? Yes. Well, Lukin Sergei Vladimirovich, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor of the Department of International Management of Belarusian State University, Belarus. Can you see us? Can you hear us? That's very good. Also, the degree applicant Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna is present. Good afternoon, Olga Valerievna. Also, we have with us the academic advisor, the applicant Belazorov Sergei Anatolovich. Good afternoon, Sergei Anatolovich, Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor, Head of the Department of Risk Management and Insurance of St. Petersburg University. Well, dear colleagues, those in remote access mode, to improve the quality of communication, please keep your microphones switched off, but remember to switch them on when given the floor. Let me also inform you that our session is being recorded and broadcast online at St. Petersburg University website. The session is being simultaneously translated from Russian to English and from English into Russian. During the live broadcast of the Dissertation Council, you may find the email address at which, throughout the meeting, all the listeners can send their opinions, questions to the candidate regarding her thesis and the ongoing scientific discussion. These questions shall be forwarded to me by our technical support department. Questions should be related to the thesis theme, the applicant's speech, and the content of her thesis. And it's obligatory to indicate the name, position, and the place of employment of the author of the question. Questions that are not related to the scientific discussion shall not be voiced. And in accordance with the order of awarding the degree of Candidate of Science and Doctor of Science, St. Petersburg University, approved by the local regulations, St. Petersburg University, hereinafter referred to as the order, a session of the Dissertation Council is considered competent if at least 2/3 of the approved composition of the Dissertation Council, but not less than 4 persons are present. Our Dissertation Council consists of 5 persons. All 5 members are present, including 3 members of the Council are here and 2 members of the Council are in the remote access mode. The audio-visual contact has been established to all the members of the Council. Thus, we have the quorum. Next, let me set forth the following procedure of today's session with the approximate duration of 2 hours. First, we shall start with the Chairman's summary report on the main content of the documents and their compliance, and answers to possible questions. regarding documents presented, 5 minutes. A brief presentation by the degree applicant outlining the key points of her study. You have 15 minutes for that, please. Next, questions to the applicant strictly on her report. No more than 2 minutes per each question. Answers of the applicant should also be short and up to the point. Speeches of all members of the Dissertation Council with their review assessment of the thesis and presentation of the applicant, a summary of their opinions, questions and suggestions to the applicant. No more than 10 minutes for each speaker. Speech of the chairman and her review, no more than 10 minutes. Next, we're going to have answers of the applicant to questions and remarks of members of the Dissertation Council. So that will depend. Shall you answer? What would we prefer, to answer each speaker individually or all the speakers together? That will be followed by the open discussion and speeches of the attendees with propositions and specific questions and proposals to the author strictly on the subject of the study. At that, all the interested persons are kindly requested to register in the registration sheet and to fully introduce themselves before speaking. That shall be followed by presentation by the chairman of questions which came in the course of discussion at the university website, if any. Next, the applicant shall be given the floor to answer these questions. Next, we will give the floor to the academic advisor of the degree applicant, who will evaluate performance. Next, that shall be followed by the discussion by members of the Dissertation Council, the results of defense, during which the broadcast sound shall be switched off approximately 5 minutes. Next, we're going to have the open individual voting. The chairman of the Dissertation Council shall count the votes and results shall be recorded in the minutes of the meeting. Next, we shall make a decision on awarding or not awarding the academic degree to the applicant, and that shall be followed by the closing remarks of the applicant. No more than 2 minutes. Dear colleagues, does anyone have any questions or objections to this procedure? That's very well. If there are no questions, let's start running the procedure. But please remember to switch off your mobile phones, and I will do that myself. Thus, let's give the floor to the degree applicant for her summary report. I beg your pardon. Sorry. I have to make my summary report first on the documents. First, we have the summary report of the chairman, so let me do that. A thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna for the degree of candidate of economic sciences, specialty 080010, finance, currency circulation, credit, on the theme minimizing the insurer economic risks associated with activities of financial insurance intermediaries, was accepted for demands by the order of Academic Secretary of Specialisation University, dated 23rd of April, number 3507/1. Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna wrote her thesis at St. Petersburg University under the guidance of Doctor of Economic Sciences, Professor, Head of the Department of Risk Management and Insurance, Belazarov Sergei Anatolovich. A number of publications of the applicant which set out the main scientific results of the thesis, according to the list provided, is 6. In peer-reviewed scientific publications from the list approved by the Ministry of Education and Science of Russian Federation, 4 publications. In journals indexed in the scientific databases, Web of Sciences Corpus, 1 publication. The applicant submitted to the Academic Secretary of St. Petersburg University a full package of documents for acceptance, for consideration and defense of her thesis. All the documents comply with Article 12, Section 3 of the order. All the documents submitted by the applicant, according to information I received from the curator, comply with the regulations and are kept in the applicant's attestation file. Copies are available from the officer of the Dissertation Council Activity Support Department, who is present at today's session. Before I give the floor to the degree applicant, dear members of the Dissertation Council, do you have any questions about the documents submitted? Shall I read the full list of documents submitted? No. dear members in online mode? No, there is no need to do so. Svetlana Yurievna, do you have any questions? No. Okay, thank you. We have no one has any questions. Then I can give the floor to the degree applicant. Dear Chairman and Distinguished Council members, let me present to you the results of my study on minimization of economic risks of the insurer related to the activity of financial insurance intermediaries. In our opinion, the theme of the thesis is topical and timely, since not only the legislative list of subjects of this market, but also specific participants that are not subject to regulation by the insurance legislation and whose activities have not been sufficiently covered in scientific papers on insurance intermediaries. The actions of these participants of the insurance market are aimed at creating conditions to improve the interaction between the insurer and the insured. These include financial and insurance consultants, bank insurance operators, appraisers, surveyors, tellmans, adjusters, commissioners, dispatchers, insurance detectives. Activity of such intermediaries, defined as financial insurance intermediaries, on the one hand is aimed at ensuring the interaction between insurers and policyholders, but on the other hand becomes a source of additional risks for the participants of the insurance regulations. The practical significance of my study lies in the analysis of the activity of financial insurance intermediaries, as well as in the development of methods to assess and manage risks associated with FII. The availability of risks associated with financial insurance intermediaries forms the purpose of the thesis, which is to develop a model of minimization of economic risks of the insurer arising in the process of financial insurance intermediation, the purpose of the study is specified by certain tasks presented on this slide. Special attention, in my opinion, is determination of the content of financial insurance intermediation, formation of criteria allowing to make a rational choice of FII, and definition of ways to minimize the risks related to FII activity for the regional insurance market of Primorsky Krai. The scientific novelty of the study lies in the development of a model of insurers' economic risks minimization connected with the activity of financial insurance intermediaries, which allows to determine the acceptable value probability of realization of these risks. In accordance with the conducted research, the developed model shall be presented to your attention in the end of the presentation, because first I should present the results that made this development possible. Financial and insurance intermediaries are specific participants of the insurance market engaged in creating conditions for interaction between the insurer and the insured at various stages of the insurance product sale and consumption. Specific features of financial insurance intermediaries are the functions they perform, such as an intermediary function, which is in facilitating conclusion of an agreement between the insurer and the insured, the redistribution function, transfer money from the insurer to the insurers, the information function, to level out the asymmetry of information between the insurer and the insured, and the evaluation function, to carry out the examination and evaluation of the value of the object, and damage in case of an accident. The regulatory function lies in the organization and settlement of damagement. Financial and insurance intermediaries can be classified based on the functional, dynamic, and organizational legal criteria. The functions of financial insurance could be classified according to their function listed earlier on the basis of the dynamic criterion. The FII could be divided into those who operate at the stage of repairing the insurance contract, at the stage of concluding the insurance contract, at the stage of insurance contract, and at the stage of settling losses. Based on the organizational and legal criteria, the FII could be divided into those who operate on the insurance market as legal entities and those who operate as individuals. The indicators that could be used by insurance companies and insurers for the choice of FIIs: financial stability of FIIs, their ability to fulfill their obligations with help of own resources, and reliability of FIIs, such as probability of fulfillment of obligations in the long term. Reliability of FIIs is calculated as a difference between 1 and the probability of realization of the FII's opportunistic behavior risk. So the reliability levels have been identified. Risks of the opportunistic behavior of FIIs include the information risks of the insured arising at the stage of preparation of the insurance contract, and risks of incomplete insurance coverage, as well as risk of incomplete insurance coverage arising at the stage of loss settlement, and insufficient compensation or lack of compensation. Risks of opportunistic behavior include pre-contract risks, tort risks, at the contract making stage, connected with insuring objects where the probability of an accident and insurance premium have been incorrectly calculated, as well as the post-contract tort risks arising at the stage of the insurance contract and the stage of loss settlement. These risks are connected with the risk of insurance compensation paid as a result of opportunistic behavior. And insurance companies and insurers can manage risks associated with FIIs by streamlining the choice of financial insurance intermediary by comparing the indicators of financial stability and reliability of the FIIs. Slide 8 illustrates a decision-making matrix comparing financial and insurance intermediaries with different levels of financial stability. It should be noted that, according to the data shown in this slide, insurers and with critical level below 40% should not be recommended for working with financial insurance intermediaries. The model of insurers' economic risks minimization presented on this slide, slide 9. This model has been tested the insurance market of Primorske-Kraj, which allowed to determine the ways to reduce the probability of realization of risks related to FII activities for insurers operating in this region. The insurance market of Primorske-Kraj was chosen for analysis because it has regional specific features, is one of the most loss-making insurance markets in Russia. It's integrated in the Asian vector of development of Russia, and representative of most FII representatives are present in this market, and it's representative in terms of key performance indicators of insurance companies. As you can see in the left part of an equation, illustrates the average expected financial results from a certain insurance transaction concluded with the help of a financial insurance intermediary, calculated for a certain stage of sales and consumption of the insurance product. This value shall not be less than the average optimal value calculated for the given transaction. This model was stated on the data of Primorske-Kraj insurance market for the insurance contract conclusion, MTPL. MTPL insurance is the most criminogenic type of insurance. Like 30% of insurance payments under these are fraudulent, according to the Russian Ministry of Internal Affairs. Testing of the model showed that the maximum permissible value of probability realization risks associated with FIIs in Primorske-Kraj insurance market at the contract conclusion stage should not exceed 5.035%. In order to reduce the probability of realization of risks, of these risks, the following methods would have been developed: increasing the concentration of FIIs that implement the information function in the region, creation of regional development agencies in Primorsky region, strengthening control over the activities of insurance and insurance agents in the insurance market of Primorsky Krai, involvement of FIIs who perform the assessment functions at the stage of TPL loss compensation, and the use of internal risk management by insurance companies to make risks associated with FII's activities in Primorsky region. Dear Chairman and Distinguished Council members, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. If you have any comments or remarks, I'm ready to respond to those as well as answer any of your questions. Thank you. Olga Valerievna. Dear Dissertation Council members, do you have any questions regarding the applicant's presentation? Please remember to switch your microphone on. Thank you, Olga Valerievna, very much for your quite detailed presentation. But I still have the same question, which I have included in my review on Primorsky Krai. Here, again, according to what you said in your presentation, you said that this region is the most loss-making region in the insurance activities. So it's not quite clear from the text of your thesis and from your speech, most of all. So what is the loss-making criteria? So there's only one criteria. And what are the indicators of loss-making that enabled you to identify Primorie as the most loss-making region? Natalia Petrovna, thank you for your question. The insurance market of Primorsky region is one of the most loss-making markets by MTPL, and the indicator is one of the highest in insurance markets. I cannot give you the exact value right now, but according to the latest report of the Bank of Russia, Primorsky Krai is among the 5 most loss-making regions by MTPL, and it definitely exceeds the amount. Could be connected with fraud, but also with other circumstances of the economic development of the region. Only by MTPL is loss-making, or by other types of insurance as well, because we should also consider personal insurance. Natalia Petrovna, thank you for your question. Within this study, we looked at MTPL, but mandatory. So these other types of insurance, motor insurance, was not included. So the motor liability insurance is the most loss-making sphere for the insurers in Primorsky region. The motor insurance is the most in-demand type of insurance. So why is it so much in demand? The number of cars. Is it how many cars do you know in Primorsk region? I cannot give you the exact number, but that's at least 300,000 cars at least. And to that, I'd like to say that auto insurance, according, in my opinion, and according to my study, the automotive insurance market is most in demand because this product is mandatory, compulsory. Non-compulsory motor insurance is also quite popular because there are quite a lot of cars, 300,000 cars. That's in Vladivostok, and in the whole of the region, they have at least 1 million cars, and there are other types, such as boat insurance, water transport insurance. Unfortunately, these products are not in demand because maybe because supply is limited and insurance is not. Thank you. Thank you, Natalia Petrovna. Tatiana Viktorovna. Thank you, Olga Valerievna. Thank you for your interest in presentation and your interest in work. In your thesis, you mention great number of financial insurance intermediaries, consultants, operators, etc. Quite a number of them. Please let me know. This classical insurance, such as banks, insurance companies, are regulated by this. There is one universal regulator. We know where to obtain statistics about these participants, which databases, where is information, where can we get information about such a large group of FIIs. So maybe you ran into any difficulties when obtaining this information. That will be very interesting to know. Thank you, Tatiana Viktorovna, for your question. As for sources of information for evaluators, information is available on the database on appraisals, and the number of financial intermediaries is now going down because the requirements are becoming more strict. And in marine insurance, so here I relied on number of ports in Russia and in Primorsky region. So here I could obtain in the information. Is great, was quite big challenge to obtain statistics. And according to expert opinions that I obtained, we have about 100,000 FIIs in Russian Federation today. So I had a feeling that you have worked very hard, and so I have the feeling that getting this information will be very challenging. Sergey Vladimirovich, Svetlana Yurievna, do you have any questions? Svetlana Yurievna, yes, I have. Is it possible to ask a question right now? Yes. We cannot hear you. Svetlana Viktorovna, we cannot hear you. Svetlana Yurievna, we cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Svetlana Yurievna. The sound keeps disappearing. We are trying. So maybe you could write and send us your question. Svetlana Yurievna, make it. So maybe that is possible because we can see Svetlana Yurievna, but we cannot hear her very well. Olga Valerievna, please hold on a second. I think that is a very good opportunity because the visual contact is okay. Svetlana Yurievna. Svetlana Yurievna. Tatiana Viktorovna is trying to call you. I can read out the question from the chat. So the question from Svetlana Yurievna is, so what is acceptable probability when determining the study results? Could you please repeat the question? What is the acceptable probability in determining the novelty of the study results? Svetlana Yurievna, thank you for your question. Under acceptable probability, we understand maximum probability of risks associated with activity of FIIs for insurance working in the Primorsky region. How these risks are acceptable And if we determine this probability, we can also determine reliability. For example, for financial insurance intermediaries, for example, for them, reliability should be very high. It's like 95%. So we should rely on this indicator. Svetlana Yurievna, thank you. Do we have more questions? Okay, then let me ask a question. In your speech and in your presentation, you mentioned the organizational legal criteria. Could you explain what you mean by this? How do you classify FIIs by this criterion, and why was it chosen? By organizational legal criteria, we understand the form of activity of FIIs as legal or entities or individuals, and we were able to determine that by developing the reliability criteria, which is very challenging today. So we wanted to come up with a criteria to measure reliability of financial holding and of a financial consultant. It's very hard to compare these two entities, but reliability could be calculated on the basis of retrospective analysis, how this consultant can be useful to a particular insurer. Could it be applied to individuals, not only to legal entities? You mean the criteria of financial sustainability? As financial sustainability, we developed this criteria for FIIs working in individuals. I described this in chapter 1.3 of my thesis. This indicator includes savings of an individual, loans of an individual available to such individual, and all property, financial savings, and other assets, and relative indicators of market leverage. His loans divided by his property, and profit, which we divide by interest he has to pay. Dear council members, do you have other questions? Then no one has more questions. Let us proceed to the next point, and that shall be speeches of the Dissertation Council and their assessment of the thesis, and questions to the reading external reviews, if any. Olga, Valerievna, what would you prefer? How would you answer questions and reviews presented by the council members after each presentation, or in the end, after all the reviews are presented? I would prefer to answer each review individually. Okay, so let's do this. So you will be given the floor after each reviewer makes his speech. According to the information that I have, we received no external reviews. Dear council members, since your reviews have been published at St. Petersburg University website, I suggest that you read only the key points which are relevant in this situation. Questions to do you have any objections, dear council members? Then let us start presenting the reviews. I'd like to give the floor to Nikitina Tatiana Viktorovna. Thank you, Zhanna Viktorovna. Dear colleagues, I think everyone present here will support me that it's always very rewarding to watch that insurance science is developing, is going further. Many years ago, we all witnessed the early stages of development of the insurance science in Russia, and today I enjoyed very much listening to Olga Valerievna's presentation, and I enjoyed reading her thesis. And I see this great potential for development of the insurance science, because in her work, Olga Valerievna has touched some of the most critical issues of infrastructure development of the insurance market. And this is very important, and this indicates the great scientific novelty and contribution into the insurance science of the Russian Federation. I like the fact that Olga Valerievna has looked at a wide range of financial insurance intermediaries. This is a significant contribution, the new term introduced by the author, and as any scientific study claiming to increase the theoretical basis of the insurance science, the classification, the increasing glossary also deserves high praise and increases the significance of this study for the development of the insurance market, of insurance science in general. Zhanna Viktorovna said that we should not go to read read our reviews, and I'd like to emphasize the significance of this, this work, but I still would like to make some comments and mention some issues which are inevitable when conducting any research with such wide coverage as we can see in Olga Valerievna's. So it's impossible to avoid any key points for discussion. One of my critical remarks is connected with the operators, the bank insurance operator and financial consultant, whose activity is not limited to the insurance markets. So, how relevant is the wording of the term financial insurance intermediary in this case? It seems it's a bit since the insurance refers to the banking market rather than the insurance market. So this is my first question. My second question: for some reason in your thesis you have not considered activities of the classical insurance intermediaries such as agents and brokers. What is their fundamental difference from FIIs? My third question is connected with regulation. For example, a bank insurance operator is the only representative of financial insurance intermediaries that perform the redistribution function. Also, according to the EU insurance legislation, the bank insurance operator is the insurance intermediary. Taking into account a transition of the Russian insurance market to the principle of Solvency II, wouldn't it be more appropriate to refer bank insurance operators to the traditional insurance intermediaries? And finally, I have one more question regarding your thesis. Can the traditional financial intermediaries, such as commercial banks, private pension funds, act as financial and insurance intermediaries? There is much discussion. Many discussions are in progress right now. So these are my questions. These are my critical remarks, but despite these critical remarks and any scientific work inevitably raises, I believe that a thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna on the theme minimizing the insurer economic risk associated with activities of financial insurance is an independent, original, complete scientific study. That is why the degree applicant Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna deserves to be awarded the academic degree of Specialty 080010 Finance and Currency Circulation and Credit. Article 11 of the above-mentioned order has not been violated by the author. Thank you for your attention. Olga Valerievna, the floor is yours. Thank you for your review. I will not read the questions first. Undoubtedly, activity of a bank insurance operator and a financial consultant is not limited only to the insurance market. However, this thesis focuses on the analysis of insurance intermediaries. The term FII just emphasizes the activity of these intermediaries refers to both a financial market in general and the insurance market in particular. In today's world, when the development of complex financial products becomes relevant, the term financial insurance intermediary can be put into practice. The influence of financial globalization and is reflected in the works of domestic and foreign authors I analyzed in the literature reviews such El Samarari, Razuki, Almadel, as well as in the works of Natalia Petrovna Kuznetsova and Jana Viktorovna Pisarenko. Based on the works of these authors, it could be we can state the boundaries between the insurance and banking sectors are disappearing. Nevertheless, the insurance market has its own specific features, so the term financial insurance intermediary is used to emphasize these specific features. Your second remark, the traditional insurance intermediaries. This thesis is dedicated to the participants of the insurance market whose activities are not regulated by the insurance legislation and doesn't receive proper theoretical understanding in the works of national and foreign authors. If the activity of insurance agents and insurance brokers has been well studied, the activity of this group has not been studied. As for the difference of FIIs from the classical insurance intermediaries, insurance agents and brokers, this term doesn't exist in the Russian legislation. So first, FII is not legally dependent on the insurer and the insured. Insurance brokers represent the interests of the insurer or, in rare cases, of the insured. The insurance agents represent interests of insurance organizations. If an insurance agent starts to represent interests of the policyholder, that's a violation of the legislation, and FIIs are not obliged to represent only one party. The second difference is in the economic independence. The insurance companies pay the insurance intermediaries, which is included in the structure of on the price of the policy. So the broker's premium depends on the price of the insurance product. As for FIIs, their income does not depend on their service. Is, for example, as the result should be independent. Otherwise, that should be a violation. And finally, we think lack of integration function. The lack of integration FIIs of the redistribution function, which, in our opinion, is key to the insurance intermediary function. Its essence is that the insurance agents and brokers, while selling insurance products, are entitled to transfer funds from policyholders to insurance companies. At the same time, from FIIs represent only bank insurance operator is entitled to carry out such activities. This is explained by the fact that in the European insurance market, bank insurance operator is insurance intermediary, while in the Russian insurance market, the activities of the bank insurance operator are not subject to legislation. And as for the third comment, the Russian legislation does not regulate the activities of bank insurance operators. A bank insurance operator is an FII who carries out activities to ensure the terms of transaction between the insurance company and the insurer in the field of bank insurance. Despite the fact that the Bank of Russia analyzes, it is impossible to consider the bank insurance operator as an insurance intermediary. Firstly, in the law on insurance, there's no term insurance intermediary, and secondly, the law doesn't regulate the activity of an insurance bank operator. Therefore, it's impossible to classify a bank insurance operator as an insurance intermediary in the Russian market. And as for traditional financial intermediaries, if they can act as FIIs in the world of globalization and financial convergence that we may observe, As commercial banks and pension funds can work in the development of complex financial products, their role is much larger than that of FIIs. Although one FI may act as a sales channel for another, acting as a sales channel implies economic dependence on the insurance company, since commission shall be paid from the insurance premium. Secondly, the financial insurance intermediaries perform activities to create conditions for interaction between insurance organizations and policyholders. But various financial intermediaries may engage financial consultants and open subsidiaries that will specialize in promoting financial supermarket products to customers, offer more complex products which contain both bank and insurance products. The day before yesterday, I read a work of a Spanish scientist. Says brokers should. So that's the latest trend. Olga Valerievna, is that all? Tatiana Viktorovna, are you satisfied? Yes, I thought this is a very complicated sphere legislation is insufficient, but I think you are on the right track already. I'd like to give the floor to Kuznetsova Natalia Petrovna. Thank you, Zhanna Viktorovna. Well, my review on Olga Valerievna Kozmynykh's thesis contains exactly what has already been mentioned, traditional points on novelty and recommendation, value of recommendations, and credibility, novelty of the key points and recommendations given by the author on the other hand. And finally, maybe the most interesting point mentioned by Zhanna Viktorovna is compliance with the order of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And here, as introduction, I think the thesis we are discussing today indeed is an independent study that makes a contribution not only to the insurance theory, but in the theory of industry insurance markets seen at the national level, the Russian national insurance market, and as the author claims, the regional level. The author also, the degree applicant also looks at the regional level at Primorsky Krai and a small part of St. Petersburg regional market. The theoretical and practical significance is obvious. It's quite well described, so I shall not talk about this. Yet the thesis is not void of some minor drawbacks, which include the following. First, the financial functions. The author mentions the redistribution function as the applicant already mentioned in answering our general questions. And this redistribution function lies in the transfer of funds from policyholders to insurers. Out of all FII representatives, this function is performed only by an insurance bank operator, as the applicant says on page 25. The author, in our opinion, narrows down the understanding of FII to insurance bank, as was mentioned by Tatiana Viktorovna, slightly in different context. But what, in our opinion, should be mentioned here is the process of financial convergence and conglomeration. And so these interesting institutions acting on all the national insurance markets and the global insurance market Here, the role of these institutions, in our opinion, should be mentioned as insurance intermediaries. Here, operators of insurance banks are not alone. And second, redistribution function is not the only FII function. If we see at insurance intermediaries in a wider context of financial intermediaries at national and global levels, and if we consider the client-oriented strategy of selling complex integrated financial products, we can distinguish at least three, very well classified by the author. We can distinguish at least three other FII functions, such as increase in added value, increase in customization, increase in the value of consulting and information services. So the second remark I'd like to make is that though the author in her speech and when answering questions mentioned works by Zhanna Viktorovna and my works as Information Insurance Intermediation Mechanism in the Bulletin of St. Petersburg University, published back in 2011, in this sense, of course, this article is directly related to the theme of the thesis, as financial conglomeration and as agents whose activities are regulated in the regional information complexes, integration complexes. We're talking about EU, maybe less about NAFTA, and maybe, but yet these complexes do exist on all the regional information complexes. Specific features. I beg your pardon, Natalia Petrovna. Sergey Vladimirovich is back. Sergey Vladimirovich, thank you for getting back to us. Without you, we have to take a technical break. Thank you, Natalia Petrovna. Please continue. So, on page 4 of her work, the analysis of Russian foreign works shows that the authors of insurance intermediaries tend to consider traditional representatives, such as mentioned by Tatiana, such as insurance agents and brokers. And in this regard, I think the thesis shows some misunderstanding of the essence of intermediaries as one of the leading institutions of global and national financial markets. And it's not quite clear whether the term financial insurance intermediary is used correctly within the framework of risk investigation of an insurer as a financial intermediary. Next, this, I think, is an academic question. In my opinion, the applicant confused the object and subject of this study. In year 1, we teach our students that the object of the study is what we are exploring. And here, the author explores insurance intermediaries at international and regional, but the subject of the study is the relations between at various stages of consumption of the insurance product. So the subject issues that have not been studied before or have been studied insufficiently. And this is very well described in your thesis, but on page 6 in the very beginning, this is really a shame. And I also have one more. This comment, unfortunately, this remark is quite long, so I shall try to summarize them. We'll try to give you only so the significant comments of design editorial nature. there is some sloppiness in the concerning the footnotes in the list of literature. So here I think I wrote quite a lot here, so this is not that interesting, and there are some misprints. Ekaterina Viktorovna Solopenko in one of the footnotes is called Solopenkov, as a man, and whose works I don't know. And moreover, the applicant often refers to various regulations without mentioning pages or articles of a particular law. This sloppiness should be avoided by every researcher, even a beginner. And one more, sloppiness is also in footnotes in the list of literature. And here I also mention works by Zhanna Viktorovna and my work on financial mediation, a work by Irina Stadislavna Merkuryeva and mine, international experience of insurance activity regulation. Here you've given wrong page numbers and some key points which I know by heart because this is I wrote this book, so I remember it very well. I remember it by heart. Another point which unfortunately I have to mention is work by Grossman Steiglitz on the impossibility of informationally efficient markets. Of course, this is wonderful, but on page 14 of the thesis, referring to bibliography 173, there is some confusion because in reality there is no immediate connection or with the thesis theme, and some other mistakes which, with your permission, I will not mention now, but these mistakes undermine credibility of the thesis, and the number of such mistakes is quite large, and that is not good because this is where we all started and where every young researcher should start. Also, there is another drawback that I would like to mention connected with the activity of financial intermediaries in Primorie region. And here, while reading this part, I was sorry you have not mentioned the fundamental work of Evgenia Leonidovna Prokopieva, discussed at her doctoral thesis, was discussed at our department, because she looks at the regional insurance markets of different regions, of different territories in Russia. And that is really a shame, because if this work, and Evgenia Leonidovna has written many works like that dedicated to the regional aspect of the insurance market, if you had your work would certainly benefit. And in addition to all that, what I have asked you already in the beginning of our session, Primorsky Krai, though you said why you chose this region, and you explained because it's most loss-making region, but in your answer you said that only MTPL is companies that are making losses. So I think you should try and answer this question, and I still do not understand why you have inserted St. Petersburg, though I love our city, but to me it is not quite clear. Your model certainly could be applied to St. Petersburg, but why is that? Is it because it's also loss-making, or it's not loss-making and all is going well in St. Petersburg? So there is no clarity in this. So maybe that's all. But in general, the thesis by Olga Valerievna Kozmynykh is a complete scientific independent work written by the author. The results of the study have novelty, practical and theoretical significance. Articles published agree with the thesis topic, and the thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna on minimizing insurer economic risks associated with the activities of financial insurance corresponds to the basic requirements set by the order and awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. A degree applicant, Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna, deserves to be awarded the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences, Specialty 080010, Finance, Currency, Circulation and Credit. Article 11 of the above mentioned order is not has been partly violated. 5.11 of. Thank you for your attention. Natalia Petrovna, thank you. Natalia Petrovna, thank you for your detailed review. Let me answer your comments. I accept your first as one of the representatives of the market, but of course not the only. Page 1, the distribution function is not the only function of financial insurance intermediaries. As for 3 other functions of FIIs, added value not mentioned in my thesis, which could be an omission. This was done because the costs of case management are in the insurance tariff structure, but the income of financial insurance intermediary does not always depend on the insurance organization, but also on the insured. For example, a financial consultant may receive his reward from a client interested in buying an insurance product. So if in added value increase in the function of financial so we calculated, we considered this incorrect. Nevertheless, the issue of influence is relevant and shall be we plan to investigate it in the future. As for customization and growth of value of information services, these functions emphasized by Natalia Petrovna are including the information function, which is maybe financial insurance intermediaries carrying out the information function, eliminate this asymmetry between the manufacturer and consumer. The insurers receive information about the essence, insurance organizations, and through this information function, mis-selling is fault and is highlighted by the Bank of Russia. And thanks to elimination of mis-selling through bank sales channel from between 2019, drive the Russian insurance market has changed. Also, implementing the information function, financial FIIs receive feedback from policyholders which can be transferred to manufacturers of financial products. On page 19 of my thesis, it's stated that to increase the share of premiums, it's necessary to inform the potential customers of insurance about the existence of insurance products that could be useful to them. Nevertheless, customization and increase in the role of information service in financial markets deserve more attention. Regarding your second comment, article by Natalia Petrovna and Zhanna Viktorna, Insurance Intermediary Mechanisms of Financial Conglomerates, is devoted to the change of insurance intermediary structure to integrated financial intermediaries. This article differs significantly from the majority of studies on insurance intermediaries from the works of Martina Erhard and Lopaza, Laikova, Alexander Nikolaevich Bazanov, because it focuses on and within this study we analyze the activity of financial intermediaries, financial consultants and other participants of the insurance market, and although the activity of financial intermediators as insurance intermediaries deserves both more additional study, goes beyond the scope of this thesis. As for the use of the term financial insurance intermediary, my answer is, the remark is that I accept this remark. FIIs are specific participants of the insurance market carrying out activities to create conditions for the interaction between the insurer and the insured at various stages of sale and consumption of insurance. This term is not identical to the financial intermediary, which means professional participants of the financial market acting on their own behalf and under their own responsibility, rendering service and distribution of monetary assets. Indeed, the use of FII could be misleading, but as I have already said to Tatiana Viktorovna, there's specialization of insurance. As for object and subject of study, I accept this remark, and as for the remark number 5, as for misprints, let me comment. Indeed, in the list of literature, Solopenkov was a mistake. I accept this was really a misprint. And ignoring article by I also accept. As for sloppiness, Natalia Petrovna Kuznetsova, Merkurieva, on international regulation, Olga Valerievna, we have to call a technical break because Svetlana Yurievna is gone. We have to wait till she's back. Okay, if Svetlana Yurievna is back, please continue. Page 76. So there contains sloppiness. So I accept your remark. Unfortunately, when analyzing articles by several authors, the link could be given to an article by the authors, the original author or the original source. So unfortunately, we referred to a later study. So the same idea is given in several articles. As for lack of reference, there was a compilation of a role of FIR intermediaries in financial insurance markets. As for the contribution made by different scientists, in our study we analyzed the role of a specific part of players of the insurance market. So that is why we analyzed mediation in the insurance market, and for that reason financial mediation bank did not get enough attention. As for your other comments, not mentioning the fundamental work of Prokopieva, I accept this remark. In her studies, the author analyzes the activity of insurance a regional insurance market, and if we have added this work, the thesis would be more significant and more fundamental. As for the choice of Primorsky Krai, here let me give the following answer. The market of Primorsky Krai was chosen for reasons I have already mentioned in my presentation, and I explained in pages 77. Maybe the explanation was not detailed enough, and it was still not clear. As for the regional insurance market of St. Petersburg, indeed it was I used it to test the model and to compare data obtained while testing for comparison. And so since St. Petersburg was chosen as tribute to St. Petersburg University, maybe that was incorrect. I did this purely for comparison. So St. Petersburg was an insertion, so maybe I should not have done that, and maybe I shouldn't have done that. And as for incorrect and excessively fragmented conclusions, I accept this remark. At the time I was writing, so I could not avoid certain sloppiness. For example, given in footnotes, page numbers could be wrong, and I'm going to learn from this experience, and I hope to avoid these problems in the future. Thank you for your review, and that's all I wanted to say. Natalia Petrovna, do you think the applicant answered all your questions, and are you so satisfied? Yes, I'm quite satisfied. Thank you, Natalia Petrovna. Now the floor is given to Svetlana Yurievna Yanova. Svetlana Yurievna, can you hear us? The floor is yours. Again, Svetlana Yurievna, since your review was published, could I read the key comments? Can you hear us? You can. So I will read the key remarks and the degree applicant, and then maybe you can confirm or deny if she answered your. Svetlana Yurievna, do you agree? May I read your critical remarks? Svetlana Yurievna's writing. Unfortunately, I cannot see what she is writing. Svetlana Yurievna agrees. Thank you, Svetlana Yurievna. Let me read partly the key points of your review. A review by a member of this thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna. Relevance and structure I will omit because the review has been published, and I shall go straight to critical remarks made by Svetlana Yurievna. So here are the points for discussion that need some clarification. The purpose of the study is to develop a model for minimizing risks connected with activities of FIIs. Nevertheless, the author pays a lot of attention to risks of insurers connected with activities of insurance intermediaries. Wouldn't it be better to consider risk of insurers within a separate study? Next remark. I would like to clarify the reason why the author uses the term insurance product rather than insurance service. Number 3. In Table 5 on page 51, the author gives a classification of risks of insurer and policyholders related to FII activities, considers the risks of preparing insurance card. At this stage, individuals and legal entities considering the possibility of purchases are not yet insurers. So it could be concluded that Table 5 contains a terminological error. Number 4. Developed model of insurance risk minimization related to FII activity can be applied for a certain stage of sale and consumption of insurance product and for a certain type of insurance. In the thesis, this model is stated only in the stage of MTPL insurance contract conclusion. Why hasn't this model been tested by the author for other types? These are all the critical remarks. Despite these remarks, the thesis gives a positive impression and is a complete, independent and reliable scientific study. The thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna on minimizing the insurer economic risks associated with the activities of financial insurance intermediaries corresponds to the main requirements set by the order of the 1st of September 2016, number 68, on the order of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And the applicant, Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna, deserves to be awarded the degree of candidate of economics specialty 080010. Finance, current circulation. Article 11 of the above mentioned order has not been violated by the degree applicant, member of the Dissertation Council, Doctor of Economic Sciences, the head of St. Petersburg Economic University, Yanova Svetlana Yurievna. Svetlana Yurievna, I read your critical remarks and the conclusion of your review. So let the degree applicant answer your questions. Thank you, Svetlana Yurievna. Thank you, Zhanna Viktorovna. Let me answer the first question. The purpose of my thesis was to develop a model to minimize the risks. So the main attention goes into analysis, but financial insurance intermediaries, workers intermediaries, generate risks, not only for the insurance, but also for the consumers of the insurance products. Therefore, it would be incorrect to exclude identification and analysis of risks of insurers would be incorrect. Nevertheless, a more detailed analysis of risks of insurers' activities of FIIs shall be independent scientific study. As for the second remark, insurance product, insurance service. In my thesis, the insurance product represents a more complex economic category. In our judgments, we relied on opinion of Belazarov and Matavilov, who believe that a bank product is an interconnected set of banking services provided to a client that satisfy a specific financial need. The insurance product is also an interconnected complex of insurance services. That is, an insurance product in the final form is a guarantee of protection from a sale of insured risks. An insurance service may be a service for conclusion of an insurance contract or a service for realization of insurance payment. Nevertheless, the application of insurance product, insurance service remain a subject for discussion, which is shown in our thesis. As for the term insurer, that preparing the insurance contract, a client is, or contacted an intermediary or an insurance company is not yet an insurer, would be a potential client. Nevertheless, we use the term insurer because as part of this thesis, we analyzed what risks formed by experiences in policy at various stages of acquisition and consumption of insurance products. If the insurance product has not been purchased, there's no possibility to analyze such risks. As for the model, we chose MTPL insurance contract. It's the most criminogenic type of insurance. Risks associated with the opportunistic behavior of intermediaries are formed mainly at the stage of insurance contract conclusion. This model could also be applied to other stages of consumption of insurance products and other types of insurance. However, due to the limited scope of the thesis, testing of the model is the subject of further study, which goes outside the scope. At that, my speech is over. Thank you. Svetlana Yurievna, please let us know if the applicant answered all your questions and are you satisfied with the applicant's answer. Svetlana Yurievna is satisfied and she says thank you. So thank you, Svetlana Yurievna. Now, next, we'll give the floor to Sergey Vladimirovich Lukin. Hopefully we can hear you. I hope so too. So thank you, Sergey Vladimirovich. Dear Chairman, dear colleagues, dear attendees, let me mention relevance of the thesis and comments, critical remarks that need some clarification and points for discussion. In my opinion, the relevance of the thesis lies in the fact that insurance aims at protection of insurance, but presence in the insurance market of participants whose activities are not legally regulated, interests are violated by opportunistic activities. From the side of FIIs, if the applicant the amount of fraudulent payments reaches 15%, so the development of the insurance market, the Russian Federation, is a serious threat. And according to this strategy, the level of fraudulent payments should be comparable to that in European Union, where it amounts only to 5%. And identification of risks they are generating and developing methods for their evaluation will lead to help to decrease the amount of fraudulent payments and to lower the insurance prices. Also, the practical and theoretical significance and scientific novelty and significance of the thesis. At that, I would like to make some critical remarks. So first, why, despite the fact that in the beginning of the chapter 2, the author has identified the risks of the insurer and the insured, the work is dedicated to minimization of risks. Why isn't such careful attention paid to management of risks of the insurer connected with the financial and insurance intermediary, although the insurer is the final consumer of the insurance product? My second point, I wish to consider the ethical side of insurance, as well as the role of financial and insurance intermediation as a tool for removing fear and anxiety from a person. 3. The author in the second chapter mentions the Markov chains as an instrument of insurance risk assessment related to the activities of FIIs. A large amount of text is devoted to examples of application of such chains for risk assessment, pages 55-64. Is this method used today in the insurance practice? So, despite some questions and critical remarks and some points for discussion mentioned by my colleagues, so this is such points quite typical. The thesis, despite these, the thesis by Olga Kozmynykh deserves a positive evaluation, and the author deserves to be awarded the degree of candidate of economic sciences. And let me read the thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna on minimizing the insurer economic risks associated with the activities of financial insurance intermediaries corresponds to the basic requirements set by the order of the 1st of September 2016 on the order of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And the degree applicant, Olga Valerievna Kozmynykh, deserves to be awarded the degree of candidate of economic sciences, specialization 080010, finance, currency circulation credit. Article 11 of the above-mentioned order has not been violated by the author. In conclusion, I'd like to say that the thesis leaves a good impression. It's a well-written work, and I'd like to thank my dear colleagues for the opportunity to work together with St. Petersburg University, where I presented my thesis, and the scientific school, I believe, is one among the best in the world. So as always, an honor to work with you, dear colleagues. Thank you for your attention. Dear Sergey Vladimirovich, thank you for your speech. Olga Valerievna, you have the floor. Sergey Vladimirovich, thank you for your review. Let me answer your questions and remarks. To your first question, within this thesis, I analyzed the risks of the insurers, because the insurance companies manufacture an insurance product, and realization of the risk of the insurer will damage business reputation of the insurance company. Risks of the insurers connected with FII activities arising at various stages of insurance contract conclusion and loss settlement in some cases can be managed by the insurance company in order to improve the insurance market. As for the risks of the insurers arising at the stage of preparation of the insurance contract, they are connected with incorrect information Partly, these risks can be leveled by insurance organizations through a system of preventive measures, but in general, the issue of rational choice of financial products, including insurance products, is a subject of a separate scientific study and goes beyond the scope of my thesis. So for the second question, for the ethical point of view, insurance is aimed at removing anxiety. From the ethical point, insurance is removed at anxiety. This is emphasized in the thesis, the attitude of Russian citizens to the policy of insurance, a factor of economic security, by Olga. In the modern conditions of financial and economic activity, the economic security of one person depends on many factors: the environment, natural disasters, the economic situation of commercial organizations, reliability of financial intermediaries, etc. Risks correlated with each other increases the role of insurance as a tool to protect individual. Guarantee of economic protection is aimed at reducing losses and beneficiary in case of insured risk realization. Also, the implementation of the preventive functions described by Astan and Vasukova is able to reduce the probability of realization of risk and the amount of potential damage. It should be noted that guarantee of protection can partly relieve the level of anxiety and relieve the person from fear of for the future. And your next question on Markov chains. Yes, this method is used in insurance business and is rather a well-known method of risk assessment, including risks connected with the presence of antagonists, as Balan monograph Risk and Reflection. However, this method is used for the assessment of risk of insurance organizations which have not been previously studied. Also, this method shall be implemented in the activity of IC capital policy, also in Gastrach, to assess manage risks associated with FII activities. That's all. I thank you for your attention. Sergey Vladimirovich, are you satisfied with Olga Valerievna's answers? Yes, I'm quite satisfied. Thank you. Thank you, Sergey Vladimirovich. Now, I'd like to give the floor to the chairman of the council, myself. I will not read the entire review, just focus on the key points. In general, the thesis leaves a positive impression. The work is quite interesting, provides an interesting view, but as any study, the work has certain drawbacks. First of all, as was mentioned already, the text requires more editing because the text contains a number of mistakes and spelling mistakes. The author should be more careful when using foreign legal acts, but if any legal act has been cancelled or terminated, this should be mentioned. Also, the ways as bank insurance operator will not give the wages, which the author never explained and refers to not in foreign practice, and introduce as financial insurance intermediary. The author should be more careful. Also, on page 12, 13, the author tries to as intermediary, and so she was quite successful here, but in my opinion it's incomplete. It will be interesting to see more analysis of from the position of regulators in different countries, so that will make the opinion of the author more reliable. Then analysis is, the author mentions of Williams Richards School, which considers insurance remedies. This provides a basis for further consideration. A footnote 173 takes us to a different study. So this question has already been asked, but I decided to ask it again. I would like to hear you answer this question once again. Next, the author distinguishes such an FII as a bank insurance operator, which operates as an individual, but usually insurance banks are legal entities. And in the Russian insurance legislation, like the European legislation, which considers an insurance bank operator as an intermediary whose activities are subject to licensing, nothing is said about the activities of insurance bank operators, so they cannot be considered as classic insurance intermediaries. Page 36. The author claims they are not legally liable, FIIs are not legally liable, due to the absence of a mechanism for FII regulation, with the exception of cases of insurance fraud when FII becomes criminally liable. Aren't the FIIs civilly liable? Next, should be noted that the insurer policyholder applying this indicator does not take into account the reputation of FIIs, although the business reputation of financial insurance intermediary is a key factor for its customers. It would be interesting, but maybe that will come in the future, so to consider the possibility of quantitative assessment of FII's reputation. On page 81, figure 9, dynamics number of insurers is negative. The trend is a sharp negative slope. Please explain how the decrease in insurance number and on page 81. And general comment. In this part of the work, the author develops a model to minimize the risks associated with activities of FIIs tested on data regional insurance market of Primorsky Krai as well as St. Petersburg. However, the text about St. Petersburg looks as an insert, as there's no comparison. There are just two results, Primorsky Krai and St. Petersburg. So this case, I'd like to be, and I would like to see the results properly analyzed. Also, I'd like to say that the text does not all this. There are double references. Footnote 20, page 81, but different authors, but no mentioned, but in the text of the thesis, but since it contains a reference to use of, even though not always correctly presented, I think that we may say the thesis corresponds to Article 11 on the order. Thus, despite these critical remarks, the thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna on minimizing the economic risks associated with activities of FIIs corresponds to the basic requirements set on the 1st of September 2016, number 6821/1, on the order of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University. And the degree applicant, Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna, deserves to be awarded the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences, Specialty 080010, Finance, Currency Circulation. Article 11 of the above-mentioned order has not been violated. Thank you. Zhana Viktorovna, thank you for your questions. Let me answer your questions. As for your first remark, I accept your remark. As for the source of legal acts, I use them as information base. And what is meant by mediation in financial markets. As for mediation and insurance mediation, I accept this remark. Approach to mediation approaches were described some in Annex 2. A more detailed analysis of scientific approaches shall be reflected in my future works. Should be noted that in these theses I analyzed activities of the insurance market engaged in creating conditions for interaction between the insurer and the insured rather than the classical insurance intermediaries, which mostly include insurance brokers and agents. As for School of William Richardson, the name of is a name of law school which employs scientists engaged in the study of insurance mediation from the legal perspective. Special noteworthy are such researchers as Jeffrey Stemple and Hazel B., who write in their works about other mediators, other intermediaries operate at loss adjustment phase. William Richardson himself did not do research in this field and served as Chief Justice of the State Supreme Court in Hawaii, USA. The law school was named after him. And so I'll just say maybe that was incorrect. My decision was incorrect. As for insurance, bank insurance operator, the insurance bank is on a commercial bank as an insurance organization. In my thesis, as a manufacturer of insurance product, considering a commercial bank as a financial and insurance intermediary, I thought this is incorrect because an FII acts as a link between the manufacturer and consumer of an insurance product, and if the operator's commercial bank itself will reduce the role of commercial bank in the financial market, reducing it to sales channel. And secondly, it will not cover the institution of banking insurance, which is a new trend resulting in financial globalization convergence. His task is not to sell insurance product, but to create a comprehensive financial instrument that will meet the financial needs of the consumers. As for legal responsibility, we're talking about cases of opportunistic behavior of FIIs where there is no direct violation of law. For example, there are cases criminally liable. For example, when which doesn't meet his by also I focus on lack of regulation of the financial insurance intermediary by a Bank of Russia, but of course FIIs are civilly liable, and some of activities of some of them are liable by marine legislation, etc. Next, as on considering your remark, page 40, in this thesis I propose to assess reliability of FIIs, which is understood as the probability of FII meeting its obligation in the long term. As for the reputation assessment, referring to Negapetyan's study, the reputation of an intermediary correlates with the definition of reliability set forth in my thesis. Reputation depends on the duration of FII's activity, professionalism, readiness, fame and opinion established in the market. To determine reliability, we use indicators of probability of opportunistic actions which can be obtained from retrospective analysis. The longer the FII is in the market, the more data could be obtained. As for the use of the term business reputation, this term refers more to the market research and represents a separate economic category. Also, a part of my thesis, we decided not to evaluate business reputation of financial insurance intermediaries because it's hard to compare business reputation of a large company engaged in financial consulting, for example, companies that are among the big three, and an insurance consultant, an individual, but it's possible to compare their level of reliability if reviews are available. However, the study of this business reputation should be reflected in further scientific study. Figure 9 and the reducing number and decreasing number of insurance organizations. My answer is the decrease in the number of insurance companies leads to oligopoly tendencies in the insurance market. Under the reduced competition, the top managers reduce motivation. At the same time, insurance companies face an internal conflict of interest. On the one hand, an insurer is obliged to implement the general function of insurance. On the other hand, being a commercial organization, the insurer has a goal in the form of earning profit. These two goals contradict each other because then fulfilling obligations of the policyholder, the insurer pays them insurance premiums, which are main item of expenses. And oligopoly tendencies, the level and concentration of top 5 assets, 65.3%, which exceeds similar indicators in 2018, though in 2019, the first quarter, this level exceeded 800. Yet, despite looking at these trends, tendencies, it's possible to conclude that insurance companies are facing conflict of interests. So they will ignore interests of policy of insurers. And using Primorsky Krai, MTLP insurers today, they buy policies that are mandatory. Medical insurance or life insurance is becoming more popular, but still many insurers buy life insurers is when buy MTLP. There is some pressure from the insurers, so some insurance products, the mis-selling is there are cases of mis-selling. And next comment, article 3.2, my answer is I accept your remark, because in my thesis I analyzed the insurance market of Primorsky Krai, as said in paragraph 3.1, testing of the model of insurers' risk minimization for the market of St. Petersburg was performed to illustrate that the model can be applied to another regional and to compare permissible levels of probability of opportunistic behavior for two regional insurance markets. As for the results obtained, they show that reliability requirements for FIIs operate in St. Petersburg are that happens because the amount of MTPL payments is lower by approximately 8 or even maybe 10% now. In Primorsky region, the costs are higher. As for the average insurance premium in St. Petersburg is higher by approximately 35% in St. Petersburg, which means that average financial results on MTPL in St. Petersburg are higher than in Primorsky region, so they may accept higher probability of opportunistic behavior. As for Primorsky Krai today, it is necessary to analyze measures to exercise more control, more information about insurance and the activities of FIIs. As for comments regarding footnotes, yes, indeed, there are some mistakes. Partly this happened because the footnotes were connected, and maybe you noticed that so that's a technical mistake. The numbering was wrong. I did not pay enough attention to this. Also, I tried in the text to mention as many works as possible. So if I fail to find some source, I can include the editorial data in the thesis so that the reader knows. So these are my answers. So these are my answers to your questions. Thank you, Olga Valerievna. I would like to say that Olga Valerievna answered all my questions, and I'm satisfied with her answers. Now, dear colleagues, let me inform you that we will not take, since we don't have any external, we have no attendees, so there are no external speakers. So dear colleagues, please let us know if we received any online questions. No. Then Sergey Anatolyevich Belozerov, academic advisor of degree applicant Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna, you have the floor. Dear Chairman, dear Council members, I think there is no need to emphasize the advantages of the thesis by Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna, because you all had an opportunity to read her thesis and make her own conclusions. On my behalf, I would like to thank you for such detailed comments that will be certainly needed in our future work. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to some points connected with the defense session of Olga Valerievna. Far East Federal University, got some teaching experience and practically wrote her candidate's thesis there. And in April 2019, she became an applicant, degree applicant at St. Petersburg University. She decided to defend her thesis in accordance with the new order accepted by St. Petersburg University. This was not an easy task, as you know, dear colleagues. 3 times her thesis was discussed at the department and expert council. So by working hard, she has rewritten her entire thesis. She managed to meet the high qualification requirements applied to degree applicants at St. Petersburg University. She prepared and published the necessary number of articles in journals of high rating. Also, I'd like to draw your attention to another circumstance connected. 2 insurance companies working in St. Petersburg market believe that the results of Olga Valerievna's study can be used in everyday work. So she obtained the implementation certificate, so to say. I'd like to mention also that the work of Olga Valerievna is the first work on insurance defended at St. Petersburg University in accordance with the new order. And remember the words of Tatiana Viktorovna that the insurance science is developing and that we want this process never to stop. So I think you will not be mistaken if you make a positive decision on when you make the decision on how to vote for or against awarding to Olga Valerievna the degree of candidate of economic sciences. Thank you very much for your great work, and my speech is over. Sergei Anatolovich, thank you for your speech. Dear colleagues, since our session, so some of the council members are working in remote access mode, do council members and others present and any unanswered questions or comments connected with working in remote access mode? No, we don't. Everything is clear. Svetlana Yurievna, is everything okay? Yes. Yes. Then, dear colleagues, now I suggest we take a technical break to discuss the result of today's defense. And for the period of this discussion, please stop online broadcasting. And colleagues and not members of the Dissertation Council and the degree applicant herself to leave the room and switch the sound off. I shall invite you to come back when our discussion is over. Thank you. Dear colleagues, I declare the technical break finished. Please switch the sound on and resume the online broadcasting. Let's make sure we can all see and hear each other. The most important moment of today's session has come. So please let us check if we can all see and hear each other well. Svetlana Yurievna, can you see? Can you hear? Yes, I can see and hear you. That's very good. Thank you. Sergey Vladimirovich. Yes, I can see and hear you. Okay, so the connection is okay. We can start. Well, dear colleagues, I put the question of awarding to Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences, Specialty 080010, Finance Currency Circulation Credit, to the open individual vote. Dear colleagues, let me remind you that a decision of the Dissertation Council should be considered positive if more than a half, but not less than 3 members of the Council that took part in the session voted for it in accordance with Article 3 and 23 of the Order. Well, let's vote. Tatiana Viktorovna Nikitina, your opinion. Dear colleagues, I vote for awarding the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences to Olga Valerievna Kozmynykh. Thank you, Tatiana Viktorovna. Natalia Petrovna. Dear colleagues, dear applicant, I vote for. Thank you, Natalia Petrovna. Svetlana Yurina Yanova, your opinion? Dear colleagues, I vote for awarding the degree. Sergey Vladimirovich Lukin, your opinion? Dear Chairman, dear colleagues, dear applicant, I vote for awarding the degree. Thank you, Sergey Vladimirovich. And me, Chairman of the Council, Pisarenko Zhenovitna, vote for awarding the degree to Kozmynykh Olga Valerievna. Thus, dear colleagues, let's count the votes. Out of 5 members of the Dissertation Council present at the session, 5 voted for, no one voted against, and no one abstained. So, decision to award to Olga Valerievna the degree of Candidate of Economic Sciences, Specialty 080010, Finance Currency Circulation Credit, has been made. I congratulate you. Dear colleagues, since some council members have been working in remote access mode, do council members or the applicant and others present have any questions, comments on procedure of today's session? So please, Tatiana Viktorovna, do you have any objections regarding the procedure? No. Thank you. Natalia Petrovna, do you have any objections? No objections, thank you. Svetlana Yurievna, do you have any objections regarding the procedure of today's mission? No, no, everything was properly organized. Sergey Vladimirovich, do you have any objections? No, I don't. Olga Valerievna, do you have any objections? No, thank you. So let us give the floor to the degree applicant for her closing remarks. First of all, I would like to thank the chairman and members of the Decision Council, Zhana Viktorovna, for her hard work as a chairman. This is indeed hard work. Natalia Petrovna Kuznetsova for her invaluable comments and recommendations. And Tatiana Viktorovna, thank you very much. It was a pleasure to get your assessment as a representative of different school, different scientific schools. Viktorovna, I know that you have your own opinion. I mentioned that in my thesis, so it was very interesting to answer this question. Thank you for agreeing. Sergey Vladimirovich, thank you very much for taking part. I understand that unfortunately you were not able to attend this session because of the circumstances, but thank you so much for taking part, for sending all the reviews. It was I was so nervous that something will be behind schedule. Thank you for Larissa Viktorovna for organizing, for guiding me and all the members of the Decision Council, and I'm especially thankful to Sergey Anatolyevich Belazarov, who 2 years ago accepted me, discussed my thesis, advised me to become an applicant, and worked very hard, and all the representatives of St. Petersburg University who worked on my thesis, who gave me advice, who guided me. Without you, this would not happen. And I would like to say special thanks to my parents who are watching me from Vladivostok. Mommy and Daddy, I love you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you, dear colleagues. Thank you. Congratulations. Your speech was very emotional. I declare the session closed. Let me thank everybody for your attention. Please stop online broadcasting. Thank you.